Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's another episode of the Let's Talk Broncos. I'm sitting here with Frankie Abbott. It's the Thursday edition, though. That's the
Oh,
only difference between your regular Let's Talk Broncos. So, yeah, Frankie, how are you doing, man?
doing pretty well. Doing pretty well. You were discussing it on the twits. We got a Sunday without Broncos football, and it was just glorious. Something about just sitting down, having I had investment in players. I had my fantasy football going, had a couple parlays going, but like being able just to watch a Sunday without being like, God damn it, how are these orange and blue nightmares gonna ruin my Sunday was very nice. It was a very nice time. And now we get a game against the Packers, which is actually winnable. So I'm looking forward to it. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. I mean, yes, Frankie, I totally agree. It was the most relaxing Sunday I've had since the NFL season has began.
Yep.
Very relaxing, very good. I was chilling. I didn't have much going on. Just watching some football. Nothing better than that.
Some
Yeah.
good uniforms this Sunday, I'll say. We had the creamsicle Bucks. We had the those Falcons red helmets that I really fuck with. There were some really popping unis on Sunday too.
There really were. It was good, man. It's sad it's come to this point, but a Sunday without Broncos football is a little therapeutic.
Oh, definitely. 100%. And I will say it's also kind of fun because like not that it makes you feel better, but there's a lot of bad football this year. Like, I mean, what the Raiders-Bears game is going to be Tyson Bagent versus whoever the Raiders chuck out this weekend. Like this weekend, I was watching so many games where I'm just like, oh my God, like
Frankie,
there's like 6 good teams and a couple of them faced each other this weekend. And the rest was just kind of a poop shoot.
well,
And the
look
Broncos
no
are among
further. Look no further than the quarterback position, Frankie, because I was going over the quarterbacks with my roommate today, and I was trying to figure out where Jared Goff ranks. You were right. I'll give you that. Although he is he's about as system as it comes. I will say that.
No, Jared Goff's a dog.
No, he does. He's
That man's a dog.
He's about as system as it comes. But
Oh my
in
God.
that he's elite. When he has an elite play caller, an elite offensive line, and then also elite weapons, he's really good at that. But I was going over that, and I'm like, damn. Jared Goff probably is like top 7. There's just not many great quarterbacks in the NFL right now, compared to how they usually are.
He's confident.
Joe Burrow is not looking as good as he usually has. I mean, we could go down the list. Josh Allen isn't the superhero he was 2 seasons ago. Obviously better than Jared Goff, but I'm just looking down the list. I'm like, who remembers Houston, Deshaun Watson? Like, we had these guys rolling. Aaron Rodgers was supposed to be in the league this year. He's not in the NFL. We just don't have many great quarterbacks right now.
Yeah,
CJ Stroud right now, probably for the season, top 10 quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
As a rookie.
No, and it says a lot about him and the situation he's in. But I mean, and just such a big part of it too is, I mean, the stat came out this weekend, like red zone, like touchdown percentage is down like the lowest it's been in years. I think since like 2014, I think it's only at like 53.5% or something crazy like that. Like offenses around the league, both quarterback play and just offenses in general are just down a little bit this year, which I mean, kind of makes you feel a little bit about Denver, but I just want to have fun watching this football team again, man.
No, without question, another guy, Dak. Poor Dak has Mike McCarthy. Anyways, let's get into the news. I thought Jerry Jeudy, he came out today, was tweeted out by multiple people in the locker room. They asked about the Steve Smith situation. I'm not going to get really into his comments on that. Although insightful, that's old news to me. Old news. Who cares? Not that big of a deal. One thing he did mention, though, and I just want to bring it up because it seems like since Jerry Jeudy has come into the NFL, he has the biggest target on his back ever.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's always looking for something to be wrong with him. And to me, it sounded like he was just breaking down the wide receiver position, but this is what he said. He said, you could be open, but the O-line doesn't do their thing. The quarterback didn't do the job. The OC don't put you in there's a lot of stuff that got to go through as a wide receiver to be successful. Some people are taking that, Frankie, as he's throwing his teammates under the bus. How do you take that comment?
I'm so tired of the Jerry Jeudy. Like everybody puts this man under such a microscope, like it's just kind of like, dude, like he's in the trade request right now. So everyone's going to be asking him hard questions. They're coming off a tough loss. He hasn't had the season he was really hoping for. He hasn't had the career so far he was hoping for. The dude's frustrated, but every response this man gives gets put under such an insane microscope by everybody that like it just is what it is at this point. I hope he just gets to go get a fresh start somewhere with some fans that, not even some fans, but just an opportunity to go somewhere where he'll get a little bit of quiet to truly just like work on his game. And that's not me trying to say he doesn't have any fault in the issues he's had these first 3 years. Obviously he has, but like this whole, like, people try to make him out like he's some locker room cancer and he's these divas. Like, dude, we really don't see it. If anything, from what we actually see on the field and from like what he actually, like, I don't know, he seems like a pretty decent teammate to me. He seems like he cares a lot. He was the first one that came out last year defending Russ when all that stuff was going down. Like, he hasn't really done that much to me that I'm like, oh my God, Jerry Jeudy's this horrible teammate. Like, he gets frustrated because the offense sucks. I'd hope so. Like, so do I.
I know. And then the other thing is his comments are facts. Yeah. Like, out of all the positions on the football field, wide receiver is probably the one you're most dependent on everything else going on. It's just a fact. The Broncos coaches came out and echoed his statements in their pressers. They said this very similar things. So, I mean, it's just a fact. And anybody that's going to throw that, I don't know, turn it into something negative, I got to ask, just like, why? Why is it always Jerry Jeudy? Why is it like it's always Jerry Jeudy? That's the thing that's irritating to me is it's always these accusations, but with no evidence with Jerry Jeudy. It's always, well, he doesn't do this. Well, he doesn't do that. Well, he doesn't do this. And then no video proof, nothing. Like, there's never any evidence to support people's claims about him. I just wanted to get that off the top, just me in particular. But I will say there needs to be middle ground on Jerry Jeudy. There needs to be some goddamn middle ground. Yeah. Like, while you have that on one side, on the other side, you have people pretending like he's going to go to a different team and be the best wide receiver in the NFL or something like that. Mm-hmm. And that's just not realistic either. Like you said, Frankie, he does deserve some blame as well. He isn't living up to his draft status. There are things that you can point out. Mm-hmm. It's just the criticism is so rarely about his play. It's so rarely about his play.
Or it's false things. Like, the drop thing is still so funny that people bring up. When, like, to be honest, like, I don't know, like, the people who have been watching him this year, like, a lot of the grabs he's made, Russ has not thrown him a lot of great balls. He's been snagging some really tough receptions on, like, third downs and stuff. They've been, like, well over his head. He's been reaching all around, making some really nice grabs with his hands. Like, I don't know. Right. It's just kind of one of those things where, like, there's some mystical reason that people seem to kind of bash this guy as though he's kind of the worst thing to ever happen to football. But in reality, like, he's just kind of a bit of a not up to the expectations receiver, which is a lot of players in Denver who haven't gotten to progress properly because of the situation. And also because of maybe they weren't the most mature people to be put in a bad situation.
Facts.
Which is part of it as well.
And I don't want people to think we're just like all out Jerry Jeudy defenders. No. So one thing I'm going to ask Frankie is like, what do you think his long-term trajectory is? Do you think he could be a wide receiver one in the NFL? In a good wide receiver room, is he the guy leading your team in yards?
I mean, I don't know. It's kind of so like, it feels so arbitrary, you know, it kind of depends, you know, not to cheat out of the answer, but like, do I think he's going to be the go-to guy on an offense? Probably not, but I'll be completely honest. If we saw Jerry Jeudy get to a spot where he was able to really work on his stuff and get a quarterback that's maybe more aligned with his skill set, like a Tua type guy, and can really like hit him over the middle on a lot of these timing routes, would I be shocked if he became like that guy? Not really, no.
Right.
Do I think that that's how I see it going, though, at the moment? Probably not. But I still think he could, like, I can see him easily being like 1,000-yard receiver a couple times. Does that mean he has to be the best receiver on the team he's on? No. But I think if he goes to a team that has, because here's the thing, if Jerry Jeudy's playing next to a guy too, he's going to be really good. Like if he's in like a T. Higgins type situation, he's going to be absolutely awesome. I think, you know, it's just kind of. But I guess the health is also a big factor to that as well. And that's kind of something else that, like, while yes, isn't like, you know, great. It's not like things like that are his fault. The dude suffered like a lot of high ankle sprains. And his best attribute is his ability as a separator since he got in the league.
Totally. I mean, overall, I definitely agree with you. I would say that in a perfect scenario, my straight up answer is he's probably a 2 or 3.
Yeah.
on your team, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, but is that living up to draft status? No. You were drafted the 15th pick, but you didn't draft himself, and that's always the confusing part about the whole thing. Why are we taking personal things?
Well, and again, last little thing I want to say just about the situation thing. That's kind of another aspect, I think, and I mean, it was Elway who made the pick. I believe that was Elway's final draft, right? I mean, that's kind of one of the things you can look at, and you can say, man, you know, that's maybe a characteristic they should keep in mind more. And this isn't me trying to bash Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy was always in very successful situations and organizations. The man played at Alabama. The man was incredible in high school. The dude did a ton of winning and then was dropped in a situation where he was going to have to endure a decent bit of losing. And that just might be something Denver needs to keep in mind as they go about this process where we're trying to rebuild guys. We want true guys who are about the culture. And again, that's not me trying to beat up on Jerry Jeudy and be like, oh, he wasn't ready. Nah, dude, if the guy was winning, 13 games a season since he was like 16 years old and then gets dropped on a team where they're winning like 3 games a year, he's going to get frustrated and it's not going to be as easy for him to really focus on his craft, And so, yeah, that was just my final little side thought on that, just as a little maybe you look back on it and you kind of take a little note that, hey.
D-Bronx says, should have drafted Lamb. Probably. I'm not going to, probably. I would say so. I think CeeDee Lamb's a better player than Jerry Jeudy is at this point. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of this podcast, though. We're going to go over kind of some things we saw over film. Just looking at the Broncos this last week, where are some areas they can improve? What can they? What did they do bad? What did they do good? Everything in between. So let's start off with the offensive side of the ball, Frankie. Give me a big thing that you saw from the Broncos watching their film on offense.
All right, I'll start at the top. I got Russ was just really bad. Like we can just say it. He regressed straight up to like the 2022 version. He got a couple hits on him and he was dropping his eyes right away. Wasn't seeing the field well. A lot of his throws, he wasn't really lining up his feet with them. Even on like a few of the big completions. I was talking with you before the show. The play action ball to Jeudy, that was a 20-yard completion. Glad he got a 20-yard completion. He had a ton of room and probably could have left Cortland to get some yak. Even the touchdown reception to Sutton, like Sutton had the guy beaten on the slant go. He leaves the back shoulder ball instead of, I think, kind of leaving it a little bit more. He had the poor ball on the hitch route on the outside. Like, it was just an ugly game for Russ. He wasn't kind of trusting the offense. He wasn't trusting his offensive line. And, like, it's one of those things where, like, Mike McGlinchey was bad, and we'll kind of get to that in a second, but he's not doing the offensive line any favors. And I'll be honest, after I went back and watched, like, sorry, I'm just kind of throwing out all my notes. Quinn Miners had a hell of a game. Like, Quinn Miners had a couple reps against Chris Jones where I said, okay, Quinn, that's what I wanted to see this year. So that was my first thing. Russ regressed back to the 2022 self. I'm honestly like, it's one of those things where you can't with his confidence, but like towards the end of the game, I was like, you got to just put him Stidham. Like, I don't know what else he can really do.
Yeah, I mean, I had very similar thoughts, Frankie. One note I wrote down is Russ holds on to the ball entirely too long. And it's what you kind of said, Frankie. He's just kind of missing things early, and then he doesn't. I mean, when you're missing things in quick game, what happens? That's kind of what we're seeing. Everything's going to go to shit. That's what happens pretty much. The offensive line isn't even expecting you. Their sets aren't the same as if you were taking your time in the pocket. The ball is supposed to be in and out, and it's not. He's doing his offensive line zero favors, like you said. Absolutely zero. With the old Russ, one thing I would always say is like he was a magician. I think some people even forget how crazy of a magician he was. Going back there, scrambling around and making stuff happen. That was a massive part of his game. And when you're just not seeing that anymore, you're only getting the negatives that came with him holding the ball.
Because they're turning into sacks now. That's such a big part of it is they're not just pressures. That was such a big part of what it used to be. It's like, oh, he would face a lot of pressures. Now it's just, oh, Russ is just getting sacked a ton. Like the 4th and 2 where he just straight up like scrambles out of the pocket and takes a 3-yard loss. Like, yeah. Yeah.
And no, without question. And another note I have, because it relates to the offensive line, we were kind of messaging in the DMs about this today, Frankie. Mike McGlinchey is not good, really, I would say, and he doesn't deserve the contract the Broncos gave him because of the inabilities and the deficiencies he has. But just watching over the film and also discussing with you, quite frankly, one thing that has come to me is just like, wow, the offense is doing him no favors either sometimes. Like, it really isn't. when I sat there and thought about Mike McGlinchey's strengths at the beginning of the season, like what he was good at, people like to throw out this, hey, he's a good run blocker. And while true, he's a specific type of good run blocker.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was good in space. I thought he was good because of his athleticism at tackle. I always thought that was his go-to card. So he's a big guy and he can get downfield pretty fast.
Yep.
I always thought that was something, and you've seen him do some of that type of stuff, especially in the screen game. Mike McGlinchey has actually been pretty good, in my opinion, during screens and different actions going that direction where he is working in space. The issue is he's coming from an offense that right now is passing the ball least in the NFL, where they had Trent Williams on one side, so you could slide any help you wanted to Mike McGlinchey's side because you never had to worry about Trent Williams. It's always going to be single blocked over there. Why would I ever have to chip Trent Williams guy? We're going to go help Mike McGlinchey. So what I think we're seeing, Frankie, is we're seeing Mike McGlinchey go from one of the best possible spot in all the NFL for him to succeed to one that's just not very favorable. and it's showing a lot more of his faults. They will always have been there. Frankie, we talked about this on the podcast. It's just we're seeing a lot more of it now. Those faults are at length. Like we're seeing it a ton because of the change in offense.
Yeah. No, I got a couple things. Like what you said about 49ers, absolutely true. And a big thing that that doesn't get talked about enough, they have George Kittle too, who is incredible at blocking. Like I made jokes about this, but I was not kidding. I genuinely believe that on third downs, there were times where Kyle Shanahan trusted George Kittle more one-on-one with a pass rusher than he trusted Mike McGlinchey. I saw it. It happened multiple times later in the season too, especially in the playoffs. Like he did not trust that man because he knew what would happen. And like, you are correct. There are things that he does well. What really gets me about Mike is he doesn't lose, like, I don't want to say lose pretty. He loses so ugly. You know what I mean? Like, he gives up some of the ugliest plays, and it's the fact that, like, it's not like he's still kind of doing somewhat of his job. It's like when he's straight up not even in the play. Like, there was a run stop on third and short where, like, and it wasn't even a big name guy. It was 94 for the Chiefs, who I'll be honest, I don't know who that is off the top of my head. But, like, he just straight up, like, shot to the side. And Mike McGlinchey just laid him like a bull. Mike McGlinchey goes hands on his knees. He's touching the earth, for Christ's sakes. Like, and like the other thing I was telling you guys about this, and like I'm not trying to beat up on Mike McGlinchey. What gets me about Mike too is like you can see it in his body language. Like you can see that like he is clearly frustrated with himself, but not in a way where it's like, oh, like I'm gonna do better. It looks like he's just defeated. He's never like helping the teammates that he just kind of let get destroyed help up after they get hit. Whether that's Jaleel McLaughlin or Russ or whoever it is that he's kind of allowing to get annihilated on third down, he just snaps off his helmet, throws his hands, and just kind of walks off the field all pissy. And I'll be like, bro, you're getting $21 million. Like, I'm not saying don't be upset. Yes, obviously be frustrated, but like, then let's see some improvement. Let's like see some of this like fire. I don't know. Like, let's actually like, because you are right. There are some positive plays. When you mentioned the screen game, I've really enjoyed seeing what he does baiting edge rushers upfield on a lot of their screens. Their screen game has been excellent, but the negative plays so far are far outweighing the positive plays. And you are right. They can give him some help to kind of lessen those. But at the same time, like some of the things he's getting beaten on, it's kind of like, dude, like you just got to do this, you know?
Mm-hmm. No, without question for sure. And Garrett Bowles isn't Trent Williams where you don't ever have to worry about help on that side. And I can send George Kittle or Kyle Juszczyk over to my right side of the offensive line every single play just because I have Trent Williams. Garrett Bowles is having a phenomenal season, but he's not that guy. Yeah. I don't know. It's just one last question. I think schematically he's better in 49er system too. I think he's a space player. I think he's better in a wide zone system.
I mean, yes. I mean, I think it's mainly just getting the ball, as funny as it is, just getting the ball out quick, which you're much able to do in a Shanahan scheme. But like,
I think he's a better run defender, though.
But I mean, what I would say too, and I mean, this is something I've noticed with the Sean Payton offense this year is like, I mean, they're running a lot of Shanahan stuff. You know, like they've run a ton of zone blocking, which I've been kind of shocked with all year. Like, I'd say probably like majority of their run game so far has been like outside inside zone type stuff. Mm-hmm. So like, yes, I completely agree. but it's just kind of like, I don't know, like it's a double-edged sword because, okay, we need to have an offense that's able to get the ball out quick, but we have Russell Wilson. It's such a bad pairing having Mike McGlinchey and Russell Wilson. I think what it just comes down to, I think that's a great point, honestly, because it's like, fuck, we have this quarterback that he's going to average 3 seconds time to throw, and we have a tackle that can't block for 2.5 seconds.
Right.
This is going to sink quickly, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Drake May season, baby.
Yeah, exactly. Drake May season. He just, it's not a good pairing because he's not a great tackle to begin with. And then when you have an offense not running to his strengths either, a lot because they're down. Like they haven't been running. They're passing the ball the 7th most in the NFL this year, the Broncos so far.
Which is weird.
Yeah, it's 60-something% of the time they're passing the football. And their run game has been super effective this year. That's the other part about it. Let's talk about that. Their run game has been very effective. But it just is like I said earlier, he's going from the team that passed 45% of the time to a team that is passing 60% of the time.
They gotta be in the 60s.
It is not playing to his strengths. He's not a good tackle to really begin with, and then you also incorporate, okay, and we're not really playing to his strengths. It's a recipe for disaster. It's not going to work out.
Yeah. Let's talk about the run game.
Do you have anything else to add to the offense, Frankie?
Let's talk about Quinn and Lloyd real quick. I want to talk about Quinn, Lloyd, and Streif. Just kind of a package deal. Really impressed with those guys. I mean, in the preseason, we were seeing guys like Alex Palczewski, and honestly, the entire backup unit was looking really good. Like, we might have found a good offensive line coach in Zach Streif. Not that, just always some risk in a first-time guy, and we've truly seen some step forwards out of these guys that we've needed to see step forward. As I was saying, as I said earlier, Quinn Miners had a few really good reps against Chris Jones. He's been eating all year in the screen game. Like, him and Lloyd have been a really good gruesome twosome up front. And yeah, they've been really helping out in the run game. Michael Burton's been a really good asset, as is Chris Manhertz. I've joked I'm going to get a Chris Manhertz jersey, and I am not lying. That dude is so awesome. Like,
I'm just so mad when he's gone next year, Frank.
I don't know, bro. He drafted by Sean Payton. He followed him here. I forgot he was on the Saints, honestly. Like, I didn't realize that. He started his career on the Saints. So, like,
I didn't know that.
And he makes sense, dude. Like, he just whoops ass. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, I just enjoy watching this guy get downhill because, like, he takes dudes out. It's fun. So, yeah, run game has been excellent. It's been very varied, and it's one of those things. Zach's mentioned this a few times where it's like, I think Sean Payton maybe has a little bit of the Cheesecake Factory playbook going on right now. I mean, we all saw the picture of the play card where it's like, I love all the different run designs, but let's maybe we've had a few that I think work really well, and I feel like we don't do those enough. Like we've seen literally straight up just running duo has been pretty effective for Denver. It didn't they should just do that a few more times a game as opposed to all right, we did it once. Now we're going to run all this stuff off of it. It's like, okay, but let's not be scared to go back to the stuff that's working. But let's also not on 2 straight drives run the same fullback dive on 3rd and short because what the hell are we doing, Sean? It's so funny. I mentioned last week I wanted more Michael Burton, and then I immediately got my wish in the first quarter and was like, dude.
Yeah. So, yeah. I think that's a great point. I mean, when you find your bread and butter, make it your bread and butter. You don't have to go away from it. That's
stuff that works. Use the stuff that works.
Say all the time is that, yeah, do what works. Or I'm going to run this play until they stop it. Right? That's something that a lot of people said.
Sorry, and one more. Sorry, just about this point. They've been getting a lot of light boxes. I was actually kind of shocked in the Chiefs game. They did not face a lot of heavy fronts. That it was just kind of dude, just keep doing it. Javonte. Which, yes, they had to change the pace a little bit sometimes, but it's dude, just keep going. Javonte was running hard. Jaleel has been a weapon all year. They're showing you light boxes and your interior is playing well. Let's do this, man. Let's not let Russ lose the game if we're feeling like he's not the guy tonight.
Right. Without question. I totally agree with you. Let's move to the defensive side of the ball, Frankie. Vance Joseph, he's been on the seat of a lot of criticism. Can you let me know what your main thoughts are there? Did you have any takeaways from Vance Joseph against the Chiefs?
Yeah. Jaquan McMillan's really good. I said that last week, but Jaquan McMillan, awesome. Really, really good player. I really enjoy watching him play. I'm glad they have another option to be able to play at that inside-outside role. It'll be interesting. I don't know if K'Wan's going to be able to make it back this season. If it's one of those things that stretches out to week 10, they're let's just shut him down. I wouldn't be shocked. But if they get K'Wan back, I don't know if Jaquan could move outside. They had him playing a little bit outside last year, but then you could get Damari Mathis off the field and not in a mean way to Damari Mathis, but you kind of got to get him off the field. And so that's a really exciting thing to see. As far as what I've been seeing out of Vance's defense, it is the Evro defense. I feel very bad for Vance Joseph. I know people are going to think that's shocking, but Vance is kind of being put in like an impossible position right now, or at least was through the first like 3 weeks of the season when they were dealing with all their injuries. He's doing a little better, and it's kind of one of the reasons I'm sitting here like, man, they're coming off a 10-day break when they'll face Green Bay. They get 2 weeks, and then they get the bye. Would it shock me if Vance is fired? No, but I'd also be a little interested to see if over this 10-day break and then the 2-week break they'll get with the bye week, if we see Vance Joseph maybe take the time to install a little bit more of his flavor of defense. Maybe we see some more of these interesting pressure looks, because we did start to see some of those. We've seen them sauced in at the end of games a little bit. Like, he sent a really fun fire zone look where he was dropping Jonathan Cooper and having I think it was Fabian Moreau kind of come on a pressure look. Like, they've been doing some little bits of more interesting stuff, but not enough for my thoughts, and especially for what you're rolling out on the defensive side of the ball. But they were better this week. But I'd also say Andy Reid was just toying with them because he's a jerk and he hates us. So that was also a big part of the reason that the Chiefs didn't put up 30 points.
Yeah, I definitely wrote that down. I literally said, felt like the Broncos were being played with, because it's true. It definitely did. Like, in weird situations, they're running some crazy trick play where it just wouldn't make sense, because what they usually do and what they normally do was working so great. It didn't make sense. They didn't have to go to anything extra.
Yeah. I will say, off of that point, sorry, just like this. So, because I did write this down, because that is very true. They were running a lot of trick plays, but I will say, against the Dolphins and against a lot of teams this year, all that, motion, all that trickery, all that kind of let's throw some eye candy at them, it has been obliterating Denver this year. Their linebackers have been so confused for multiple weeks this season. So I was at least like, I was a little pleased that at least they did stay like disciplined. They stayed patient. There was like the weird flea flicker they ran with Kadarius Toney, and this is a bad example because why the hell is Kadarius Toney throwing a pass? But like Jaquan McMillan stayed in his zone, didn't come up to the pressure. There was a play where Patrick Mahomes is scrambling all around, and I was getting Vietnam flashbacks where I thought he was going to find a touchdown. The entire defense stayed disciplined and stayed sound. They held true to their technique, and they didn't all just like all get in frazzled because the play ran beyond 2.7 seconds. So yes, but also I think that they do deserve a little bit of credit for cleaning up the areas where they've been so undisciplined that it was nice to see them be a little disciplined for once.
Yeah, I totally agree. And yeah, shout out to Josie Jewell. He's
one thing I will say is we've seen, and this is something that really highlights how good Evero was last year. And this I feel like this might sound like I'm bashing the player, but I'm really not. So Alex Singleton has been asked to drop in coverage so much more than he was last year, and that has been a nightmare. Louder. Like, I don't know. I don't know, man. And I mean, people were losing their mind about Kelsey, and I will say after watching it, like, Travis Kelsey's just cheating. The way that dude is able to manipulate defenders with like his ability to just like, because they'll have two dudes on him, and then Casey will run like a shallow underneath him. You'll see the two defenders just like literally move an inch, and Kelsey will just perfectly hop open. Like it's like a very like, it doesn't look like much, but it is a very like, God, dude is just like, that's one of the best Hall of Fame tight ends of all time. And it's very frustrating that he's on that team. But yeah, Alex Singleton dropping a little bit too much in coverage for my liking, because he gets lost a little bit straight up. And that's not his fault. That's not the player he is.
And he's a good blitzer. Like,
great
that's
blitzer.
The other part about it is I said this a million times last season, Frankie, is that Evero did such a good job at hiding his weaknesses.
Everybody's weaknesses.
Just bringing up with Mike McGlinchey is like, hey, it feels like we're highlighting his weaknesses. With Alex Singleton last season, it felt like they played so good at hiding what he was bad at. Hey, if this guy can't cover, what are we going to do? We're going to send him after the quarterback a lot. We're still going to make him a force in the passing game. And I totally agree with you we haven't seen enough of that.
You can go down the list like DJ Jones. And this isn't me trying to take away from what DJ Jones is this year, but like DJ Jones was way more used as a true run defending nose last year. This year, he's being forced to play as more of a 3-tech and being used on passing downs more. And we're all like, why can't DJ Jones rush the passer? It's like, that's not who he is. Like Mike Purcell, people are a little bit bummed that Mike Purcell can't get off after the passer. It's like, what has Mike Purcell been for 3 years? He's literally just plump. Let me just drop him in the center. Let him just eat up a couple blocks on the double team, and he might be able to fight his way through because he shows a hell of a lot of effort in that regard. Like, It really does just go to show, like, Evero was perfectly utilizing every piece of this defense. That dude knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he definitely does. Just even seeing the drop off from when he had the defense to Vance Joseph running the defense should probably get him some head coach looks.
Yeah.
Like that alone. The other guy I wanted to highlight, player that stood out to me live and when I watched the film was Nick Bonito. I want to say I stand tall on my initial evaluation of Nick Bonito in that is he an every down football player? I don't think so. But guess what, guys? There is a massive, massive need in the NFL for pass rushers, and he can get paid handsomely,
Look what
royally.
Alex Highsmith got paid by the Steelers. Like,
Exactly. You're going to be able to, he's going to be a force as a situational pass rusher, a guy that comes in the game and if he continues to improve, gets more snaps and stuff like that. But he can have a 10 sack season easy being a situational dude, and he's going to be very, very impactful during that. Excuse me. One thing that stands out to me about Nick Bonito when he pass rushes, it was funny, and you felt it when he was out of the game last week, was even when he gets blocked up pretty well, because it's usually he's winning quick or he's blocked up pretty well at this point in his career. I'm hoping to see more counters and stuff developed in his game. But those hustle sacks that they call them are felt so much more just because he is that fast and that quick. He's able to make up ground in an instant. How many times did he almost get Patrick Mahomes off of kind of a hustle play? No one else was getting after the guy. Nick Bonito just happens to almost chase him down. So some situation like that. So I would say stock up for sure on Nick Bonito, Frankie. I'm pretty excited about what he's going to bring to the Broncos for the future. I think he's going to have a pretty important role.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I wrote Cooper and Bonito are an issue right now. They are both playing with so much confidence, which is really awesome to see. Like, I think we're seeing the benefit of, hey, you guys are the guy now. We got rid of Randy. We got rid of Frank. You guys are him. And like, dude, like, I mean, we're seeing Jonathan Cooper try out different pass rush moves. He did like a couple two-hand chops this game. Benito's been flashing ghost moves left and right. Like, these guys are trying new stuff every week. It's working. They're playing confident. They're playing hard. They're playing fast. It's awesome. I can't wait to see Baron Browning get tossed into this mix because, like, dude, the idea of, like, Baron Browning had one of the fastest get-offs of any pass rusher last year. You pair that with what Nick Bonito is, and, like, that's a nightmare on third downs. Like, quarterbacks are going to have to move up front, and if they can get Zach Allen to continue being, like, a guy who can dominate in the interior, that's some really good stuff right there. And then the other thing I wanted to point out, I wanted to highlight this for you because it didn't do anything. Drew Sanders got some edge looks. Yeah. He got 2 snaps.
He did.
Didn't do anything. Didn't matter. But it was there. And I was kind of like, hey, man, I see you, Vance. I'm saying, man, like, I won't be shocked. He might get fired in a week and I'll be like, whatever. But there's a world where Vance goes in his little lab and he takes the next 10 days and he takes the 2-week bye week. He cooks up some fun little pressure looks. And I'm not saying the defense is going to be good, but we might be like, oh, man, this defense has some fun playmaking pieces because it does, man. Like, at the end of the day, Patrick Surtain, Justin Simmons, Nick Bonito, Cooper, and Baron Browning look like they can be, like, playmakers. I'm not saying they can be, they can be like, oh, we'll make you a good defense, but they can be playmakers. And if you can get those 3 pass rushers to get you a sack, a few pressures a game, you got PS2 and Justin Simmons possibly getting, like, some decent hands on the balls, you can have some good things happen for this defense. And I'm just like, I'm excited to see it. And it might just be because, like, I don't know. I just don't want to believe, like, man, I'm going to watch a historically bad defense for the rest of the year. Because they haven't been that really outside of the Dolphins game, which such a historic outlier, I think, just because of what all of the chaos was because of that game.
Totally. And final, Frankie, I want to ask you about this is a new segment I want to bring to everybody. No name yet, but Frankie and I are going to talk about the NFL draft a little bit. Why? Because everyone wants it, and then also because there's not a lot else to root for. So we're going to talk about the NFL draft. If you guys like it, let us know. We are going to be talking about, Frankie, you've had some interesting takes on the timeline. I've seen them. You've even messaged me about them. You even have to first say, you guys might hate me for this take. I've heard that many of times.
I'm scared. I feel like I'm the guy that's like, the Broncos shouldn't draft Caleb Williams or Drake May, which isn't true.
So let me know what your thing is. What does that mean?
So here's the reality, and here's the way I see it. The Broncos have a massive talent discrepancy compared to the rest of the league, I think. And I think going forward with the salary cap issue, it's going to be kind of hard to close that gap without having an excess of draft picks. And the Broncos don't have many ways to go about getting those draft picks. And pretty much the only way we see teams nowadays get those is by trading a massive name quarterback. You think about the Deshaun Watson deal. Think about what Carson Wentz was honestly able to get for the Eagles. He ended up getting them 2 first-round picks. The Dolphins were able to get like 3 first-round picks and a couple mid-round picks for Trey Lance, who didn't even work out, you know? There's a lot of examples of these teams accumulating a lot of assets. They have a war chest built up, and then when they are in the right position to kind of go all in and kind of get the stuff that they want to get, they can do that. My idea is there's a world where Denver should say, hey, we have the number 1 pick. If there's a team out there that's offering us, say, a Russell Wilson package or a Deshaun Watson package, upwards of 3-4 first rounders, a couple of second round picks, there's a world where that could be the faster way to a rebuild than Caleb Williams. Now, I'm not saying that's 100% because I have kind of come around on the idea that you just need your quarterback. But the idea is basically this team really needs talent, I think, at all levels of this team. And I'm not sure exactly how they're going to kind of fill those needs in the rookie contract window with the fact that they have the rust kind of looming over them for the first year or couple years, depending upon how they kind of manage the cap. You can go watch Zach's video about how, the different ways they can kind of go about that. It's an excellent vid. So basically, and also the idea is, man, I'm looking at what this roster could be next year with the idea that if you do cut Russ, you're going to have to lose a lot of your big contracts. You're probably not keeping Garrett Bowles, though I guess that could be possible. You're probably slimming down in your receiver room a couple of guys, whether that's Judy and Sutton. Well, Tim Patrick, I think you're probably definitely, but I do think there's a world where Tim Patrick's getting brought back. And I think you're putting this rookie quarterback in a situation where we can see him develop some bad habits. This isn't me trying to compare him to these guys, but we've seen this with guys like Justin Fields, with guys like Zach Wilson. This isn't me comparing those guys as prospects. This is me saying that if you put a quarterback on a team with a horrible defense, which I think Denver's is probably going to be next year, you put him on a team with a poor offensive line and poor receivers around him, that quarterback can feel like he has to do everything to win a game. He's going to put it all on his shoulders. He's going to kind of develop some bad habits, and bad habits in the NFL are very, very hard to break. So it's kind of one of those things of which is riskier. Is it riskier to pass on the quarterback now and hope another one becomes available with your big war chest of picks? Or is it riskier to kind of hope that the good quarterback prospect can stay a good quarterback through a year of badness? So that's basically it. I don't know if I explained that well, but that's pretty much it.
My only pushback, Frankie, because I get the idea behind it. I don't ever want you to think that I don't.
Yeah.
Because I 1000% do. The Broncos do have holes a lot of other areas. And yes, I would love to drop off the quarterback in a better scenario than he would be, specifically at the weapons. That's more so than any of the other ones. Right. I think the Broncos offensive line is going to be okay next year. I do. I more worry about what are they going to do at the wide receiver position? Who's going to be their tight end? Who the hell is this guy throwing to next year is going to be a big thing. I just think that if you love a quarterback, it's impossible for me to pass him up. That's just my only take there, because quarterbacks are so hard to come by in the NFL. I mean, I was listing it off earlier today, Frankie, where it's just like there isn't many good quarterbacks in the NFL at this moment. There just isn't. It feels like it's the least it's been in a while to me. How can I pass up a guy that I do think can become one of those and carry our franchise for the next 10, 15 years or something like that? Give us at least a fighter's chance. And that would be my only pushback. Otherwise, I think you're pretty spot on. I don't hate the idea. I really don't. Like, I've been watching some of these wide receivers this week, and I'm like, man, if the Broncos could get Keon Coleman. If the Broncos could get Malik Neighbors from LSU, who looks a lot like DJ Moore to me. One of these tackles, if they could just move back some spots, and maybe we even worry about the defense a little bit. So I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, no, and I mean, it's also like, I mean, there's just so much to it. I mean, I think what it comes down to is there's just no perfect way for Denver to go through this next phase they're in. Like, they're going to have to take some risks in one way or another.
100%.
With because here's the thing with the quarter, and I was talking with Zach about this with the quarterback thing, with the rookie quarterback, they're going to have a ton of cap space, but they are going to need to hit on those free agents. It can't be like we wasted some money here. Like, no, they need to hit on those guys because they're going to have a lot of holes on this roster. They're going to have to fill with that 100, whatever it ends up being, 150 million in 2025, whatever that may be. And as we've kind of seen with the free agent market, usually unless you're getting the very top guy, you're kind of overpaying for kind of the more middler options. You know what I'm saying? Where it's kind of like, that's, I guess, where it just kind of comes down to it. It's all preference of risk. How do you think the team is going to be able to kind of go about better attributing their resources? Because and I will say something that made me feel a lot better is this Chiefs game, kind of seeing what, Sean Payton was putting on paper. Because I can't lie, the first 5 weeks of the season, I liked a lot of what Sean Payton was putting on paper, but I also didn't love it. I wouldn't say that I've come away with the idea that man, Sean Payton looks like a top 5 coach in the league. And I've heard you guys talking about this on the other pods. And I guess it's one of those things where I'm just I'm not, and I'm getting more confident, I guess, as the season goes on, and I hope to continue to get more confident, but I lost a little bit of my confidence. And man, you give Sean Payton an elite quarterback and this team's back. Yeah. I don't know right now,
Oh, I do.
It's scary. It's really scary, where I'm like,
scary. I think I have more faith in Sean Payton than you do, though.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's, it's not.
I do, but we can't, because here's my only pushback, and then I want to get through this pretty fast so we can sign out of here. But my only thing here, Frankie, is that we can't complain about, Russell Wilson isn't getting rid of the ball quick enough. We can't complain about how we can't complain about how Mike McGlinchey is a disaster. Who's our playmaker at wide receiver? We can go up and down this roster, and then even to the point where we're saying, can we draft a rookie quarterback, or is our roster too incompetent? Is it going to ruin him? And then also put the blame on Sean Payton. Right. It's hard to show that when you don't have the personnel to even do the simplest of design.
I'm not trying to blame Sean Payton. I'm just saying I don't know. You look at some of these very well coached teams that still might be bad. We've talked a lot about how the Cardinals have looked this year, a lot of the stuff that they're putting on paper. There's ways to lose, I think, a lot cleaner than what the Broncos have done so far this year. And that's all that concerns me. We talked about the Vance Joseph hire. I don't love Joe Lombardi being the OC that necessarily works with a rookie quarterback. I might want to see them kind of make a change up there if that's a possibility. Because I know Sean Payton, yes, is going to be the main guy in that guy's ear, but I'd like to kind of surround him with some different guys. It seems like the QB coach, I almost want to call him Davis Mills. It's Davis Webb. Davis Mills probably could also end up filling that role in a decade, but that's a different topic. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of variables to it, but yeah, that's my crazy side plan of let's get the Broncos 8 first-round picks in the next 3 years and see if they can be like the Eagles and just have the greatest roster of all time.
I don't hate it, man. Okay. I think that's all for us today, guys. If you guys liked the way this format was, where we were kind of breaking down the offense and then defense and stuff like that, please let us know in the comments. We're always open to suggestions. I know it's a little new, but if you guys liked it, please let us know. And that's all. Frankie, where can they find your work, man?
Frankie's Film on Twitter, and then Let's Talk Broncos on YouTube. I dropped a film review today. It's got Cortland Sutton, Jaquan McMillan, or McMillian. I'll be dead ass. I have no idea. It's spelled like McMillian, but I've only heard announcers say McMillan. I was literally watching his college highlights last night because I don't like getting names wrong to try to hear what announcers are saying. And they were saying McMillan, but then it's spelled McMillian. I don't know. But yeah, you should go watch that. It is McMillian?
Yeah.
Well, now I'm a dick. Where can they find your stuff, Joey?
You find me at JR Drafts on Twitter. Just, subscribe to YouTube. We're dropping Broncos content every single day. And until next time, guys,